Dr. Nancy Meyer's impact on Calvin University athletics will long be remembered. Student, athlete, teacher, coach, and administrator. She truly did it all. Meyer began her days at Calvin as a member of the varsity softball and volleyball teams. She stayed on after graduation to teach and coach at her alma mater, taking on the roles of head coach for swimming and diving and the tennis programs until 1983. In 1986, after earning a doctorate from the University of Northern Colorado, Meyer returned to Calvin to take over its women's cross-country program. It didn't take long for the Knights to dominate their conference and produce substantial results at the national level. From 1988 to 2003, Meyer's Knights were unmatched. They won 17 MIAA conference titles and 14 Great Lakes regional crowns, which led to 7 podium finishes at the NCAA D3 championships, including back-to-back national championships in 1998 and 99. Meyer, a 2-time National Coach of the Year, 8-time Regional Coach of the Year, stepped down from her post in 2006. But in addition to her coaching duties, Meyer was a full-time professor in Calvin's kinesiology department, while also serving as athletics director for 15 years until she finally fully retired in 2021. Please welcome Dr. Nancy Meyer, 2021 inductee to the USTFCCCA Coaches Hall of Fame.
Whew. It's kind of nice to follow a dead guy. Makes you a little less nervous. The other tip I learned is that you're naked. So I'm just pretending you're all naked, so if you get chilly, I understand. And that's about as funny as I get, because I got to read this speech here. I want to thank the association. I'm actually quite a stranger to this organization. I wore so many hats in my career that I was usually giving exams this week. And so I missed all these great conventions and these Hall of Fame dinners. In fact, when I got the call in August from our SID, and he said, "Congratulations, Hall of Famer," and I literally said, "Hall of Fame of what?" I just had no idea. So I'm very deeply grateful. I'm humbled, and I'm in such great company tonight with this class of these amazing men. I'm kind of sandwiched in between them all. And it's a thrill for me to be here. I want to thank my family sitting right here with me tonight. My husband, Roy, my daughter, Allie, and her husband, Andrew, my son, Ben. And I have an alum of Calvin, Nicole Farr-Kramer, who was able to run the very last year I coached, and her husband, Nick. They are rival coaches to each other in Milwaukee at Concordia, Wisconsin, and Wisconsin Lutheran. Did I get that right? All right. So that's pretty cool that they could be here with me as well. And I'd like to thank Calvin as well to allow a kind of a raw 23-year-old, fresh out of grad school, to come back to her alma mater and be able to work for 42 years. And to be that kind of institution that attracted the caliber of women that came under my care, because without those women, I obviously wouldn't be here. For my whole career, Calvin had this really annoying habit of assigning me to tasks for which I actually had no experience. It was through this, "and now you're going to do this" approach that I came to realize that when we talk about one's calling, it really has less to do with our professional chops and more to do with our purpose in those various roles. And it's really this purpose that I want to talk with you a little bit tonight. When I was assigned to coach cross country in 1986, I was actually the Ted Lasso of college cross country. And I guess you got to watch the show to understand that. In one major respect, I knew nothing about cross country, like Ted knows nothing about football. Sadly, I was not as good looking as Ted, I wasn't as funny as Ted, or as nice as Ted. But on the upside, I've never been called a wanker, so there's that. And you have to watch the show to get that. So I was appointed in 1996, and the same year Calvin hired Brian Deemer, who was a 1984 bronze medalist steeplechaser, to coach our men. So think about that. The men get Brian Deemer, and the women get the swimming coach. So it's like, great, thanks, Calvin. So right away, my approach and purpose was to learn as much as I could and to try and make it a good experience for the women, and to make sure that they didn't have that feeling like, crap, I wish Brian was my coach. And that was pretty motivating. In 1990, my daughter Allie was born, and that really changed our life a lot. It was a huge blessing in many respects, but one was that I got out of coaching swimming. Now think about this. I would go from cross-country practice to swimming. There was quite a bit of an overlap there, so I was very happy to go down to one sport. So back to my purpose. Now my main purpose quickly morphed into model. What was it like to be a working mom? I didn't really have any role models that I knew personally that were trying to do what I was doing. I was coaching, I was teaching. About 6 years later, I became an AD, and along with that, being a wife and mother. And I get to use a word now that you won't hear amongst the men tonight, but I was nursing Allie. Guys can't say that. So she came with me to every meet, and if she wasn't on the bus, my husband Roy drove, and so every weekend, Allie was with us at the meet. And that same was true when Ben was born in '93. You know, where mom goes, child goes. And so it really created a nice family atmosphere for us, but it also meant a lot of extra work for Roy, who gave up every Saturday. Both Roy and I were really committed to allow me to be in the sport and to mentor those women. And yeah, we were really having a lot of success, but that was really not what it was all about. We both believe that sport imitates life, and that there were a lot of lessons to be learned. So more than everything else, more than the trophies and anything else, I just wanted to help the women learn great life lessons. So tonight, I just want to say a couple things to you, whether you're Division I, II, III, NAIA. We all care about expertise. We all care about success. We care about trophies. We're all competitive. But I think there's that common element. We really want the best for our young people. So these are just a few observations. I had like 25, and then I had to cut them way back. So here we go. Number one, commitment comes in surprising ways. I had this runner who came to Calvin in 1991, Amy Rideout, and she was talented. What I really liked about her is she was a racer. You know, you have practice runners and racing runners. She was a racer. Well, she had 3 good years at Calvin, had not made All-American, and she was a speech pathology, well, a major, but we didn't have that major yet at that point. So she transferred to Ball State after her fall, ran indoor and outdoor for Ball State, transferred back to Calvin in the fall of her senior year, made All-American, 35th. So I was like, phew, glad that worked out. But it was that kind of commitment that we had to our program that really, it spoke a lot to me, that somebody would literally go to a school, transfer out, transfer back in just to have that experience. Number 2, leadership comes in many forms. A sassy little sophomore who was a decent runner, but not all that great. Rochelle Bays, after our disappointing finish in 1997, just said, I want a ring. And I'm like, whoa, girl, whoa, back down. But that's exactly what our team needed. You know, in the Calvin Dutch Reformed way, we're not supposed to be proud. And she was like, I want a ring. And we needed that. We needed that focus, even if it came from a sophomore. Third, you need talented athletes. I was really blessed to coach some really great athletes. I had 2 4-time All-Americans. Not sure how often that happens in Division I and II, but it's pretty rare in Division III in cross country. I had a 3-time All-American and a handful, several 2-time All-Americans that really helped us succeed. But I also had just a bunch of really great kids. And when you take the time, if it's not you, it's someone on your staff to let them know they matter, they play a vital role, I think it'll go a long ways for your team. As been said many times tonight, you need great assistants. I am not a rah-rah person. I don't like giving speeches, in fact. But every team needs that fiery personality. And if you've been around Division III track, you might know Al Hoekstra. And he was a talker. And he didn't do the X's and O's for cross country, but he could give some great speeches. And we loved him for that. You also need that quiet, I'll do anything for this program type coach. And we had that as well. A young woman named Laura Skolma really filled that role. So I'd encourage you to have a really blended staff and look at the personalities, look at their strengths and use those. Next, every program needs a rival. If you're in Division III, you may be familiar with the Calvin-Hope rivalry. And we at Calvin, there's nothing we want to do more than beat Hope. Every day of the week and twice on Sunday, we want to beat Hope. And Mark Nordheis and I, we just love to beat each other. And we made each other better. Mark's a great guy, a great coach, and I know he made our program better, and I think we made his better. So if you don't have a rival, you got to start one. Next, there are no givens when it comes to racing, regardless of your team's talent. And every team has to deal with upsets. Injuries are just part of the deal. And sports medicine is just as much art as science, and we as coaches have to recognize that. Secondly, upsets aren't just physical, they can be mental. And there are times when athletes, they let themselves down, they may let the team down, and they have to deal with that. But what's really important for you as coaches is to know that it does not define them as people. It doesn't define their lives. And so we have to be there for them in those times when they just didn't come through. And it cost you a championship or this or that. Those are still individuals, and we have to let them know they will not be failures in life because they didn't make All-American. The best runner to ever not make All-American, in my experience at Calvin, is an MD, a surgeon, a mother, a very successful woman in the community, and thank heaven she didn't let those failures define her. We have to teach and model an attitude of gratitude. Melody Beattie is a kind of a guru on gratitude, and she wrote, "Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity." Those of you cross-country coaches this fall, did you have any dramas on your team where you really needed to, the chaos had to come to order, the confusion to clarity? Think about introducing gratitude into the equation. Next one, any real human connection involves vulnerability. 1 year after our winning our second national championship, we entered the NCAA championships out in Spokane, Washington, ranked #1. And we finished 14th, and the wheels just came off during the race. So I gathered the women together, and we got in our little rental van, and we just cried. We just cried. And then we kind of put on our happy faces, and we went on to cheer our men to their first national championship. We needed to grieve, but we also needed to move on. Scott Erickson, in his book, Honest Advent, wrote, and listen to this quote because it's awesome, "It is only when we have exhausted our tales of trophy winning, when we let down our guards and speak to the truth of our travels, that we find that we connect as humans in the places we have found that we were walking with a limp." And then finally, learn to play the cards you are dealt and learn how to compromise. I wish Washington could figure that out. For me, accepting less than perfection was essential in order to balance the home and family commitments. I couldn't be 100% present anywhere, let alone perfect. That included at work, being a parent, being a wife. You can just ask my family. I was never 100%. I was never perfect. I just had to accept good enough most days, or that's the best I can do. Developing that ability to hold so many balls in the air has taught me a lot about balancing priorities and developing the attitude that most things will work out okay as long as I had the support of my family, which I always did. And if I could follow my purpose, it may have changed over the years, but if I could just follow that purpose, which overall was to serve God through my work and my role in my family, I knew I was okay. So I ask you, especially you young coaches in our audience, which we have a lot, how do you define great? As I look back over my 20-year coaching career, I'm reminded that life and coaching are more about grace and purpose than trophies. Coaching is really hard work, and today it's very complex. I'm glad I'm not coaching anymore. It's got so many pressures. But I believe that we can make a difference, lifelong impact on the lives of athletes entrusted in our care. So I challenge you to be a difference maker with your athletes, coach with a purpose, and by all means, blessings on your coaching journey. Thank you.